Welcome to Inside Founders. This is where we go beyond the headlines and dive deep into the strategy and the milestones and the vision driving our work at Founders forward. We'll unpack the latest news releases, explore thinking behind key decisions, and connect directly with you, our investor community. My name is Harp Gossel. I am the Director of Investor Relations at Founders, and today we'll be diving into conversation with Colin Paget, CEO and President of Founders. Hi, Colin. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Harp. Yeah, I'm really glad we're getting this going.
Colin is currently in Suriname at site, so this is a great opportunity for us to discuss some of the latest results that have come down the pipeline. So I thought we could start with our key takeaways from the latest news release.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to dive into it. I mean, I think the biggest thing that came out of the last news release is, I guess there are a couple of them. One was the big headline number. I mean, 46 meters of, over 3.5 grams per ton is a pretty impressive interval, and in line with some of the other, big numbers that we've seen come out of Upper Antino. So we're really glad to see the continuity of that high grade ore shoots that we see developing in the subsurface and deeper geology, and that kind of leads to the second big thing that came out of this release, and it was our first couple of holes with results way down deep. So we've now hit mineralization with the deepest hit was 8 meters at 2.25, but we also had another 20 meter interval of 0.73, and those sorts of numbers really point to there being structure at depth. We're seeing continuity of this big mineralized system much deeper than we had been before. Previously or prior to this, deepest intervals were 275 meters down, a lot of it shallower than 150, 170 meters. And so it really represents a lot of opportunity for growth to depth. And then that continuity or continuation of the high grade core is just fantastic to see as well. And kind of lastly, but following those points, we did also put out some more results touching on some of the sub-parallel shears that we see, and continuing to gradually fill that gap between Froyo and Donut, which all told the two would comprise over 1,000 meters of cross strike mineralization if we can fill that all in with drilling we have planned coming up here.
I think you made some really key points here. We are continuing to see phenomenal numbers come out of the ground. We're starting to create connection further and further. And one of the exciting parts is we're getting mineralization at depth. And these are all part of the long-term strategy to continue advancing Antino. So that leads me to my next question is, how should investors view Founders now than they should have viewed us 6 months ago? Like, what's the growth that they're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that we've continued to really deliver on the plan that we had with Upper Antino, with the Antino project as a whole this year. And that's, we wanted to take, we have Froyo, and last year's question was, how big is Froyo? I think we're still working on answering that question. I think the results today even still point to that. But the broader question this year, and a big driver for the exploration work we've been doing over the course of 2025 has been, how many Froyos are there at Antino? And I think we're still working on answering that question. These things take time. Once you get outside of that kind of Upper Antino, Lower Antino, Boise kind of core of where there was, historic results and also, the kind of broader historic auger grid piece, yeah, you get into some really early stage stuff, but we made 5 discoveries in the last 12 months, all of which have 50 or in some cases 100, 200 plus gram meter intercepts in some of the first, 2, 3, 4 drill holes, which is a pretty rare thing, I think, for properties as a whole. And I remind people that all of those are very, very early in the exploration process. And, Antino took a bit of work and had some work on it, even before we got there, but we were able to turn that into something, pretty special and pretty impressive. So we see a lot of potential for, continuing to grow Upper Antino, and then exploring and continuing to make new discoveries and grow those discoveries further afield.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about next, is that all this work is very meaningful to our overall strategy. And one of the things that you just highlighted really beautifully was, this is rare. And it's rare to have this type of work being done in the last year. So why do you think we're starting to see some of this sector rotation and price drop, both company-wide and in the entire industry?
Industry-wide, it's a good question, but the North American market has certainly seen a bit of a pullback on the gold junior side. There's been a lot of volatility in the space, since kind of, let's say, late March, early April, with the various goings on, related to tariffs and the like. That's certainly had an impact. I think just increased volatility as a whole has, people wonder whether they should hold on to things, especially if they've had quite a large win. So I think we certainly have seen a bit of, selling pressure from people coming out of the stock that were maybe in it very, very early on, and locking in some of those gains, which is, perfectly natural. And I think part of the evolution. And, I've had a lot of, conversations even recently, and whether it's retail or institutional investors alike that are not hearing the story for the first time, although we've talked to some new shareholders as well, but they're, building position or really seeing value here where we've had this pullback at the scale that we have. And I would much prefer that the share price only go up. But like many in our space, we've had this pullback. I really feel that it creates an opportunity for people, because the premise behind founders and behind what's driven share price and growth to date, we've not seen any change. Like, we're continuing to drill at pace and still releasing drill results presently. We're still looking at once a month, if not better. And I think as we come into the fall here, we come back into the dry season and really back into the full swing of having drills on exploration targets outside of Upper Antino, and just pushing that news flow piece even that much harder.
This is a great time for us to kind of bring it to the 2025 drill program and what the status is and what we're looking at. You made great points about the fact that the fundamentals haven't changed, and we have been putting out news once a month, and that these 5 discoveries have come to fruition. So what would you say is the current status of the 2025 drill program?
In the, I guess, early Canadian spring, things were slower with the rainy season being much more severe this year. Well, although I think this is normal, we had historic droughts for the last 2 years, which was kind of a nice way to start if you're drilling the whole way through. But that definitely slowed things down. So we had some lower production months coming through that, but things have picked up pace, particularly bringing the rigs back and focusing on Upper Antino during the rainiest part of the year here, which we're now coming out of properly, which is great. We were able to pick up the numbers on the meter front, and we're definitely on track for completing that 60,000 meter drill program that we have planned. So coming close to 2/3 of the way into that program, and look, we've got quite a healthy balance sheet as far as cash in the bank, and the program piece, our season, we closed down for a few weeks over the holidays around New Year's, and that's about it. So when we hit that 60,000 meter number, we keep going, and we're on track to get there pretty soon.
Can you provide us a zone by zone update?
Right now, so the focus recently has been on Upper Antino and Maria Giralda. Those are the 2 areas we're drilling right now. So presently, we've got 3 drill rigs working at Upper Antino, and then we've got the 1 rig that's initially did the first 4-hole program at Maria Giralda. We had that fantastic success with the 22.5 meters of almost 12 grams per ton in hole 3. After those 4 holes, we had left to do some exploration, a couple of exploration holes that were planned in the eastern portion of the Boise area, and then now we're with that success. We're back there testing, following up on the Maria Giralda drilling, and happy to be moving forward with the drilling and starting to follow up with some of the success that we're seeing come out at the surface exploration. On the Upper Antino front, we kind of covered the latest and greatest on that with this press release, but then moving into Boise. So we've been working on building some of this, eastern targets at Boise. Still pretty early stuff. We've seen some pretty great grab samples at surface, prospecting results that look very promising, and we're interested to get some of the drill results back for a couple of the holes that we have there. After that, really for Boise, we've been working on scale, and there's coming back to Boise is really going to be focused on defining the extent and the scale of more locally the high grade core component that we see of that deposit, and then building out from there when it comes to the broader low grade intervals that we've also intercepted, and that I feel kind of mark the backbone or underpin that from a overall bulk tonnage ounce standpoint. But the high grade core component is obviously critical for bringing up the average grade. But getting back there and doing some more work this fall is certainly part of the plan for one of our rigs. And then after that, you start to step further out and into things that we right now for drilling. It'll be, we're actually getting closer to being able to get back to things like the Da Vinci, Target, and Van Gogh areas. Both of those, we've got auger sampling work that's ongoing or just getting started. And then we're doing a pretty extensive trenching program to give us a lot more of that geologic understanding input. The technical team has really been focused on the surface exploration front, and it's been feedback that we've gotten from a few geologists that we've had to site. Done a number of tours, and especially people who have that kind of the West African analog sort of experience. They've focused it's service exploration when it comes to these new things, and so we're listening to them. I think we were before, but we've taken it even more seriously and gotten pretty aggressive on that front to build out things like Van Gogh and Da Vinci and ultimately Lawa as well for continued or new drilling coming up in the early mid-fall as well.
Colin, I know you're in Suriname right now and you're on site. I think it'd be really interesting for our investors and our viewers to learn a little bit more of what infrastructure looks on site. How do you get there? What is the accessibility to all of our target zones?
Yeah, so logistics and as far as getting to site is pretty straightforward, actually. Going from Paramaribo, you can take a flight right from the city here. There's an airport that services the interior, and it's a 50 minute flight and drops you off at our main camp, which we have probably the third or fourth busiest airstrip in the country at the moment. And 1.3 kilometer strip serviced by two airlines, primarily by Blue Wing, which we use quite a lot for kind of getting supplies in and out. It works really well. And an airstrip is a fairly simple thing, but when it's especially in early exploration, it's been such a big part of our success in just getting off the ground very quickly, and it's a big part of future access and mobility and getting people, supplies, all of it in and out of site. The other big piece is of course, how do you get heavy equipment to site? And, we've got a number of pieces of heavy machinery now that support our ongoing exploration activities. And, there's certainly been artisanal mining in the past that, has trucks and things like that. And all of that, whether it's anything up to 30, 40 ton articulating haul trucks or D6 and D8 bulldozers, excavators, they all come up on the river on barges. And we're very fortunate to have that bargeable access directly to Antino. It makes getting the big bulky things or things that don't fit in airplanes, a lot easier to site. And I think it represents a pretty open opportunity for future development. And then further to that, there's definitely road potential down the road. There's some forest roads that are being constructed right now that will come to, kind of within about 15 kilometers of our western boundary. We see that as kind of the first step towards longer term road infrastructure that eventually supports, what we hope to see as a developing mine in the interior of Suriname. But, I'll reiterate on that front. We're through and through exploration right now, but that's certainly something that we plan to work towards in the future.
So when will our shareholders start to see a cadence of results on our current strategy?
Yeah, so I think it's we alluded to it in this most recent press release. We anticipate to get some news out next week, just as an update on the surface exploration piece around the Maria Giralda area. We've been able to get to and done a bit of work on the surface front, and the Parbo spot where there's a really impressive historic auger anomaly. So, excited to get a bit of those details out. I think with that release as well, we'd talk to some of what the timeline and plans are for those further out targets, but a little bit of it is still predicated on weather. We're still coming out of the rainy season, so it's going to be access dependent and making sure that we can do it efficiently. So that's what's going to drive the exact timeline. But the dry season is pretty long. It's usually kind of mid-August straight through to the end of December is typically what we're looking at. So, it's a quite a long period of time where we can really make sure that we're getting drills out there testing these things. And really for founders, I think, the goal needs to be, finding one of these, multiple of these. I think the potential's still there, but actually building on it. I mean, we had a great kind of first pass success in terms of putting some drill holes in and having some great numbers come back from multiple different targets. But now it's getting to them and actually getting that geology, getting that surface work done, and understanding how we can grow those targets into something of scale and answer that how many Froyos are there question.
That's a great update to our strategy and also to our target zones that we're starting to see on site. Coming out of the rainy season is going to be a really great and exciting time for us. I wanted to shift our conversation to the Suriname jurisdiction and what it's like mining there.
So Suriname has a pretty long history of mining in the country. I mean, even the gold, initially discovered in the area around Antino is from the late 1800s. So, prospecting and gold mining has really been a part of I'd say the country's ethos for a long time. When it comes to big scale mining though, it's, Rosebel is well north of 10 million ounce gold deposit that was, a couple of years ago acquired by Zijin from IM Gold. It's effectively an institution in country. You've got over 2 decades of operating mine there. Marion more recently, but since 2016 has been operating under Newmont's guidance, and they've had a lot of success there in terms of growing that as well. It started as a sub 2 million ounce resource, and they are likewise now well north of 10 million ounces in global resource for Marion in terms of mine or material upcoming, I guess. So there's a really strong small scale mining culture in the country as well, and so I think that it really lends itself to a stable mining friendly jurisdiction. Recent offshore oil and gas discoveries that are now moving into development following sizable $10 billion plus investment decision in the country. I mean, that's just a further diversification in addition to this kind of foreign direct investment and just growth and overall development of Suriname, and really just bodes well for the future of the country. I see a lot of opportunity here.
That's a really nice historical take, because we recently saw an election in country and there has been a new president. What can you say about that? What can we look forward to from this new government that's coming into place? Will they continue being supportive of mining projects and foreign direct investment?
Yeah, I mean, look, mining is such a big part of the economy. And I mean, all of the parties kind of going into that last election in terms of major players, are very supportive of the mining industry. It's a backbone of, the broader revenue model presently, and they're major employers in country, and I think are viewed quite positively. So I see that support continuing. I think there's a lot of opportunity with this new government to, we were already coming into or have relationships, built there, but I think strengthen those relationships and, work with the Surinamese government towards, longer term, we're exploration mode now, but, longer term development, type progress, for a project like Antino. I do see a lot of support coming out of the government that way.
Well, that's really exciting. And that makes me also think of some of the great work we're doing on the ground right now. We've recently partnered with the local university on the master's program. Can you dive a bit into that and why that's so important, given that, we are an exploration company and we hope to have a long-standing future in Suriname?
Yeah, well, so there was a master's program that was sponsored by IM Gold previously, and I mean one of the things that when we came into Suriname with the interest in oil and gas, the soft rock geology as we call it, it was harder to find people who wanted to do that kind of geology piece and gold exploration part. So coming to find out that there was a program kind of designed to support that, they still offer the oil and gas side of things as well, but finding that there were quite a few students who were interested in the gold exploration side of geology at that level. We were really keen to get involved, and Tino's just, it's a pretty fantastic natural laboratory. When you look at just orogenic gold systems and how they work, there's so much of Antino. Antino is really just textbook orogenic gold geology, and in a couple of different forms and formats, which, for field schools, which we have one upcoming in October or late September, early October. That it just provides an excellent opportunity for us to build a relationship in the community, but also to provide the opportunity for students to spend some time in the ground. I mean, do a bit of work as well. That's what they're there for, is take some measurements and put together some new ideas and work with our geologists over that short field school. And then I think it's also a great way to generate some keen interest in gold geology in Suriname, and then hopefully we have some students who are interested in some internships or work following that. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
That leads me to my next question. What does success look like for the next 12 to 18 months for founders?
Well, simply put, it's probably drill, drill, drill. Because at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple story when it comes down to it. But on top of the drilling piece, I mean, we've got a number of things that are happening in the background. So there's continued work on our environmental baseline studies that we've been doing. So we're well past year one of that, and heading through the kind of year two, which would be typically kind of complete international standards level work, ongoing geotechnical, metallurgical work. Those things all kind of happen behind the scenes, so to speak. But any major updates, we certainly would get out as news to people. Another big one that I'm particularly excited about, but the exact timeline isn't completely in our hands. Although I do see some success on this front in 2025 is really growing the concession piece and growing the land package. I think that's a huge part of the future potential of Antino, or of that whole area, is consolidating the land package and really turning it into something that winds up being a camp or district scale project. And it's already 200 square kilometers, which, when you're actually on the ground, is not a small piece of land. But I think that long term, you look at some of these mine lives in similar jurisdictions, and it all comes from exploration that happens over time, over a larger area, and that's what we want to put together. So I do see some success on that front in 25.
All right, so my last question, I think we should end it right here because there's been a lot of good conversation.
We'll turn it around. I'll ask you a question.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you turn it around and ask me? That'll be exciting.
I know that you've been, you're recently joined the founders team. We're very happy to have you, and I know you've been working quite a lot on updating or making some changes to the marketing side of things for founders. And rebrand is, I think, a word I've heard, but certainly new websites and things. I was wondering if you'd take a minute maybe just to explain exactly what we have coming up for folks and what the timelines are along with that as well.
So it's been a really exciting time. And I think one of the things that's really important to highlight is, even in the summer, we haven't been quiet. We have been working very diligently at delivering an evolution of the Founders brand. As we are growing internally, it's really important that we showcase this growth externally. We have an opportunity ahead of us to really reestablish what Founders means, how we stand, and how we are going to be leading the development of the Guyana Shield with the Antino Gold Project. So I think the market and our partners are going to be excited to see a new website, new marketing materials, but also a new transition into our growth strategy. So at early September, we're going to be launching a brand new website. And with that, we're going to be having a new cadence of messaging. We're going to be doing regular updates with our team here to the market. And that's all part of this evolution. As I always say, a company has to go through, a growth spurt. And that's where Founders is. The company has done magnificent work in the last 12 months. We've seen that. And with the continued results that we're starting to see on the ground, it's really important we translate that to a an emotional and almost like meaningful, tangible story through this rebrand. And so you're going to start to see us a lot more on the digital front. You're going to start to see us a lot more on the interviewing, having these type of webinars. And also, one of the things that we're really excited for is to create engagement with our investors. So hosting webinars with Q&A opportunities for our stakeholders. I think that's really important. So that's just a little snippet of what we've been doing, and we're excited to be launching that. It's going to be good. It's going to be really good. Well, Colin, thank you so much. I know you're busy in Suriname. You've been hosting site visits. You're on the ground, and I thank you for taking the time to chat with me and bringing this idea to life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Looking forward to continuing in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.